Welcome back to Media 7. The New Zealand International Film Festival is on again, opening in Auckland and cascading its cinematic goodness down the country. But before we talk about this year's festival, let's have a look at where it all started.
Part of what makes this country so attractive to outsiders is its relative isolation. Handy if you're a peace-seeking tourist, not so if you're stuck here trying to expand your mind with new ideas. Even if it is nice looking with all ducks and crap and boats. Yeah. Nowadays we've got the internet for entertainment.
Oh my God, it's a double rainbow all the way.
But in the 60s, God help you if you were a film buff, because rare was the chance to see movies made outside of the American mainstream. This is Wing Colgan, and in 1968 he'd had enough of New Zealand missing out on screenings of European art house films.
That's when I went to see Sir Robert Carey, who was then the panjandrum of the movies, and I asked him, I said, I think Sir Robert, Auckland could do with a film festival now. At which point he called down his man who had a book which included all the films that were available on the carriage circuit. And he began reading. There were some terrible titles. And Sir Robert intervened and said, no, no, not for this gentleman. They want dirty, arty films. Then I had a long job explaining we weren't looking for dirty, arty films. We weren't into pornography.
One of the first films to be shown was the Danish production Hunger, directed in 1966 by Henning Carlsen.
We wanted to see the sorts of films that the young of other countries were making.
Initially, the festival shared films with its Adelaide counterpart, although it was a partnership not always to Win's liking.
It became obvious fairly soon that Adelaide were interested in many films that I wasn't interested in for Auckland, because there were many of them were left-wing. The man who directed their festival was indeed a director of workers' education organisations.
Bloody communists. Wynne also had issues with the fuzz.
The Customs Department warned the police that someone was trying to bring into the country 2 films from Japan, of all places. One was called Boy, and the other was called Double Suicide. It all meant, oh, that was terrible. So when I went, hello, come and knock on my door. No, I told Mr. Policeman we weren't involved in doing more than making available good films.
Wynne's now retired to Kerikeri, but the film festival he and other film lovers created continues to provide its audience with alternative films. Although I don't think he'd be immodest enough to say it out loud, I think he's quietly chuffed.
If it's done some good somewhere, it's something I'm not unhappy about naturally.
I'm joined now by the director of the New Zealand International Film Festival, Bill Gosden, and the man whose bum will be on many seats this month, Herald on Sunday film critic Dominic Corrie. Welcome to you both. Now, I thought I thought Jose made a good point here. You know, we're in the 21st century. You know, we have the internet. Supposedly, everyone can get everything they want all the time. What role do film festivals play now?
Well, I think it's harder to find a platform for some of the really interesting films that are out there. The media world is so crowded, as you say, that the festival has a role to play in actually identifying some of the more interesting byways of cinema and international cinema too. I mean, films from, I think, 41 different countries featuring on the program this year. People, generally speaking, don't have a lot of time to look into what are the most interesting Korean films of the moment. The festival makes it a lot easier.
So you've been involved since 1979. How has the program changed since then?
It's got a lot bigger. Everything's got faster, thanks to the digital era. Things that took forever to compile, like those programs that Wynne was leafing through, can be put together in 6 weeks. Something, you know, publications become a lot easier. Actually securing the films has got easier. The information has got easier. So everything is faster and bigger, and the films are newer. The films that Wynne would have been showing may have been 3 or 4 years old, and the several thousand people who would have gone to the film festival would have been reading about them in sea-freighted copies of The Guardian for weeks previously.
How have those people changed? How's the audience changed?
Well, the audience too has got a lot more general, I think. More and more people will be paying attention to what's in the film festival. It's not quite such a niche activity, but of course there are niches within the festival now.
Yeah.
Dominic, is it safe to be a film nerd now?
Yeah, as film culture has become more mainstream, I think the audience has become much less insufferable. At the film festival, it used to be the case that you couldn't avoid the strained chortling at certain jokes, but I think people are a lot more calm, and it's a lot more friendly environment, and it's a nicer thing to be into films sort of for everyone.
Do you think people really hurl themselves at it? I mean, you were a film nut before anyone was paying you to be one. How many films are you going to see this time?
Well, I used to go to a lot, and I kind of burnt out, so I try to keep it around about 20 or so, just so I can still enjoy them.
What was
one
a
or
lot?
two a day.
Tell me what a lot was.
Well, I got up to, you know, sort of 50 or 60 at times, but I was writing reviews for all of them, and that can just be a bit stressful. A lot of people do that. That's great. It's not quite the way I want to do it. I like to just pick out the things that I enjoy and not get too stressed out about it. But it's a lot more casual, I think, these days. Film culture is so mainstream now that you're allowed to get excited about nerdy films.
We used to be so exasperated because the press story every year would be, some journalists would decide, let's find somebody who goes to 80 films and have a feature about this very weird person. And it sort of profiled the festival in a way that was not particularly helpful, I think.
Because it made it seem like that you couldn't go unless you were going to see 80 films, yeah. How has the internet changed the way the festival operates now? Because I'm quite impressed with the way that you do reach out to people. Yeah,
well, it certainly enables us to get in touch with people a lot more quickly. And the information coming into us too is you know, we're much more accessible. So those things have made a huge difference. On the other hand, you know, people know that some of the films we're showing they can find out there somewhere and watch them on their crappy little screens at home. So,
yeah, Dominic, what's your role as media, as the critic? Is it to cheerlead?
Well, you know, the film festival lends itself to the kind of online coverage that you're talking about, but also traditional media. You know, it's there to provoke discussion, get people excited, promote the idea of actually going to a cinema, which almost seems like a cause these days.
You're an evangelist for cinemas, aren't you?
Yes, and it's a great time to get excited about going to the cinema, seeing films at the Civic in the opulence, and just sort of with people who know are excited to see that film. You know, we need to get people into the theatres. It can't die out.
And there's also the aspect that often we do have the filmmakers attending the screenings, and last night there was a great session that went on for a very long time after the screening of David Michôd's Animal Kingdom, where people were really engaging with the film and had the chance to give the filmmaker some feedback and find out a lot more about the process of everything that went into that film. And I think ending that passivity with which people just trot along and see the movie that everybody's seeing that weekend, overcoming that is important.
I think this year in particular, they're seeing a lot of New Zealand movies as well.
Yeah, so there'll be a lot of Kiwi filmmakers standing up there taking a few questions this year.
So how's ticket sales going? The weather hasn't been favourable, which means it's been good.
Yeah, no, the weather's been a bit annoying. It's been a bit too bright in Auckland this last week. People have been staying out of dark rooms, and we believe that the kind of weather we've been praying for is on the way this weekend.
We'll pray for rain. And Dominic, you hold up, don't go to too many films. Okay. And that's our show for this week. Thanks to Bill Gosden and Dominic Corrie, and to Anthony Flannery for making himself available in a busy week. We'll be back with Media 7 at the same time next week. Until then, goodbye.